Hi, everyone. In last week's sermon, we discovered the meaning of the universe. This week, on the podcast, we have to figure out what the question is. Anyway, welcome to the Becoming That One House podcast. Do either of you know what I'm actually referencing when I say that?
No.
Oh, now I know how Dan feels. Yes, Dan, I know what you were referencing. I just didn't hear you in the moment because I was moving.
What were you referencing?
He was talking about Douglas Adams, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. The Galaxy.
I feel like my relationship with Dan is out of balance because he'll try my stuff more than I'll try his stuff that I like versus stuff he likes. He's more likely to try stuff.
You mean
He's very open to checking stuff out.
Yeah.
Like watching baseball and stuff?
Yeah, even knowing something about it or music.
Did that game last night really go 18 innings?
Yeah, I was long asleep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Gives new meaning to the phrase doubleheader.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Sorry, Dan. You're better than I am.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Becoming That One House, everybody. We're coming at you with a breakdown of this past week's message, the title of which was, Where Are You?
You added your own...
That's actually the tone that I kind of hear it in.
Okay.
But I think that's a TV thing. Anyway, it was Genesis 3:9. What was it through?
I want to say 8 through 19.
8 through 19?
Yep. 8 through 18, it says.
Okay. Cool.
I'm going to go 19, though. I'm going to say 19 because that's a continuation of 18.
It's true. Look at these misprints.
Like an A and B sort of thing?
No, it's just a continuation. 20 starts a new paragraph.
Oh, okay. We'll have Dan come on the podcast and argue his point.
Okay.
It's like the Ephesians 5 problem.
Just like how he buttons his shirt.
Yes.
Anyway, so we have another special episode. I had a Chris Berman. I had create these questions for you guys to listen to us talk about. Thank you, Chris. Can't wait to dig into some of these. And other than that, if you want to submit your own questions, you can. There are, now there's, I guess, two methods to do so because now we have these Connect cards in the back of the pews. They got this stuff on the back of them. They just got some spots for your notes, name, ways to connect with us. Likely you'll connect with one of them and not me. Not sure. But submit questions through there. Questions submitted through these cards are completely anonymous. We will never use your name. Other than that, if I approach you or if you want to approach me and ask, if you can write the questions for a given podcast episode, we'll talk about that. But know that then I probably will use your name just to thank you and to celebrate that other people are coming up with these. And just because I forgot about it, I'm, of course, Jake, your host. This is Josh. Oh, no, I forgot it already. I got it right 2 weeks in a row, and I forgot it. Student Ministries Director.
There you go. Yep.
And then El Capitan over there.
I love how he pauses for effect.
That's good. All right. So are you guys ready to get into these?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to know. Chris Berman put this together, but did he put in there Jake random thought at the beginning?
No.
He didn't. Okay.
I took these out of the document that he sent me and put them into our format.
When he asked, where are you, is he wondering where you were? I was just going more with what you were saying.
I mean,
just joking.
Yeah, I guess.
This is almost an icebreaker in of itself. Maybe we should skip the icebreaker. Just kidding. I would never. Sorry, Jake and Chris.
You better not. You know the icebreaker is important to endear them to us.
Yeah, it's got important stuff on there. Like, what button would Jesus start with?
Yeah, what button would... Oh, wait. I got to read the whole thing. Hold on. Dan made the argument that it really doesn't matter which direction you start from when buttoning a shirt, so long as you start with the first one. Is he wrong? Why hasn't anyone optioned the no-button approach to button up a shirt? Perhaps a third way approach to to this contentious issue?
Oh, my.
And what direction would Jesus start buttoning from?
Oh,
and if I may start out, I don't believe that anyone has seriously done the no button option since 1996. I'm good.
Did you specifically target my high school graduation date?
No, are you really that old?
Don't worry. 9 years after you graduated, when I graduated, we
There
still
was-
did some of that a little bit.
Okay, good.
So
I was 10 when you graduated high school.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking at least, at the most you were 10.
That means you're older than my sister.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we commiserate how old we are.
I have more gray than you. I guess you got that going for you. Anyway, anybody else got any answers to this icebreaker question?
Jesus would obviously start from the top because he's the God man. He's fully man. He's the purest man that's ever lived. Not sure what a third way approach would look like with a button shirt.
Not to
Middle
wear a
and
button.
then down and
maybe that's
four
what the
up.
snaps
No,
are
no.
now.
I got
Yeah.
the third way.
The snaps
I
are
got
the
the third
third
way. Polo. Quarter button. Can't get it wrong.
Yeah,
then.
it's possible. I don't even think that Jesus experienced buttons in his time. I don't even know if they're invented yet.
I'm gonna Google when the button was
Oh, boy.
created. Oh my gosh, that sounds.
Was this supposed to? I mean, is this like a fun, like we're laughing icebreaker, or was this
Yeah.
meant for us to reiterate like our
So-
theme?
So let me just is the button how do you is the theme how to button a shirt?
Top down.
The question is though, or I guess
Go.
Dan. I liked his analogy, but also when he started buttoning from the top down, he actually didn't start with the top button.
On purpose though, because he was messing up on purpose.
No, I think he just didn't want to get it around his neck because it was too tight. But he started
He's
on the
talking
third
about-
button. He's like, and if you start at the top button, and he starts buttoning the third button, and I went,
I thought you were talking
Wait a
about.
minute.
I thought you were talking about
no
the
one
neck
starts
button.
at the top
'Cause the
unless
top
they're like a skateboarder or like the styles where it like opens.
well, then I want to just talk about how we've totally blown your analogy out the water then, because actually Ben never starts from the top. He
No,
starts from the second down.
Yeah.
So, sorry everyone,
Oof.
ruined that one.
Oof.
wrong.
Oof. The whole Genesis trilogy comes crashing down
yeah.
now.
Yep, we have no foundation anymore.
Oof. Anyway.
Also, how many shirts are going to be brought up during messages in this series? Because so far it's like 3.
few,
I think.
yeah.
Are you the only one that
right?
hasn't?
It's caught
That's
on.
right. Yeah, it has.
You wouldn't do it. You have to do your own thing.
Are you the only
you
one
know,
that hasn't at this point?
I'm such a rebel.
Probably.
You know, I have to. Yeah. I've worn a button-down shirt while I've been preaching, I think.
You straight up brought a chair specifically up there for him to lay a shirt on.
And his drink behind in Bible.
Oh yeah. That's right. I remember he took a big slurp during one of the shorts.
My father-in-law the other day goes, I've never met so many preachers that need to drink so much water during their messages.
Pay attention.
It's true, though. Like, Ben always has one. I always have one. Dan's got one. And Mike's got one. Like,
Incredibly
we all-
important to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
See, you drink coffee though.
I do.
So I know you drink water, at least up there, I think.
Yeah, up there.
I would be interested to see how it differently reacts to each of your voices. Also, pay attention to him. He always drinks right before an important point. He goes, and then
Interesting.
just drops the hammer.
Okay. I'll pay more attention. The secrets are out,
This
folks.
has been a good icebreaker. You
It
guys are
has.
right.
Anyway, how do y'all hear the question, where are you? What do you hear it in its tone? Or what? How do you hear its tone? There we go. And what is the similarity of God calling to Adam, where are you? And Jesus calling to man at the pool of Bethesda?
Wow.
I'm looking up the
I mean,
pool of Bethesda here.
your tone, the tone that you hear is probably, it probably relates to, not to sound too therapeutic, but probably relates to your like family of origin and your upbringing and how God was introduced to you.
So
and,
I think that he's asking specifically, how do you hear it in your head?
because I think it's relational. I think it's like, where did you go? Where are you? Because it's a loss of connection. It's not a loss of knowledge. God obviously knows, but it's relational. I think Dan did a good job with that.
Yeah, I would, the way you said it is kind of how I hear it. You know, yeah, we all kind of hear it in our own ways in some ways, I bet, and a lot of it has to do with what you were saying. I mean, I know we can't technically really know what his tone was in this because it doesn't really say, but we can all kind of have our own assumptions of what that might sound like.
I was going to say we could probably guess based on what we know the character of God to be from the rest of the Bible, but then again, that's doing what Ben's been talking about, reading and applying it backwards.
Although you have a whole spectrum of, burning whole people groups to the ground and also saving entire, creation. So there's a lot of tone difference
That's fair.
in there. So
Tell me more about the first one.
that's where do you want to go? Start Amalekites, Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to answer the part B of that question?
Let's say.
Before Josh reads it, my first stab would say that God is getting at something. God, Jesus, is lovingly exposing something in the first man and woman and in the guy at the pool. So I think that's the commonality. I think it's very relational. I think Jesus comes to the man as he is like trying to make his way to the pool and thinking it has magic powers. And ironically, the magic or the powers is in the one that's right there with him, right? He's trying to get around him to the pool and Jesus is right in front of him. He's the one that he needs to know, and later Jesus sees him and says, stop sinning before something worse happens to you. Deeply relational, deep caring, majoring on the majors, but I think he's exposing something that needs to be exposed, in both Adam and Eve and this man. Do you want to get well? Sounds silly, until you really dig into it and go, man, that's kind of relatable for me too. Do I want to be well? Do I want to follow Jesus, surrender my life to him and be well? Because a part of me doesn't. And I think Genesis 3 shows that a part of them doesn't either. They want to go their own way. But go on.
I think they're both invitational in their statements. It seems. I mean, obviously, in John, he's asking if he wants to be healed, and we would assume there's probably an audience around and all of the different kind of things when this is going on. So this invitation to it, and I think the question of where are you is almost an invitation to like initial repentance and almost like initial like forgiveness. Like it's just where are you? He cares. He wants to reconcile what's been broken, and so I would see it more as an invitational statement by God in this scenario.
That's good.
Yeah, I was interested with his discussion on the tone of Adam too, because he was talking about what the tone of Adam would be, and again, we don't know the tone. We don't really have any idea, but we can make some assumptions. Thinking about it, was he? I mean, it says he was afraid, but was he afraid because of what he's done, or was he afraid of what might come from it? Did he even understand what happened? Like, there's so much in that, but that was just an interesting piece too of like, what was Adam's tone in it? Where was his mind at in the situation?
Yeah. Was he afraid just because he felt something new? There's a new level of awareness. Was he afraid because, what's God going to think? It doesn't seem like there's much history to suggest that he's, what's God going to think? And yet there's something brand new. So how could you, you couldn't say for sure.
And it says that they were afraid.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's at least that one descriptor in there where like they're afraid, and so like, what's your tone when you're afraid?
Yeah. Something new happens. I think of like I'm dating myself, but we already did that because you did me with my high school graduation. But with Y2K, there was a fear of there was something new that was going to happen. Either a lot of nothing, which has ended up being nothing. But all of these, like, the 0-0s, they're not going to, the banks are going to crash. And
I remember that.
Literally, like, people that I knew and loved had, like, bathtubs full of, like, food and, like, pantries, like, stocked, pouring out. And
it's so interesting to think about that in hindsight with, like, a 2020 brain. Because, like, you think about it and, like, what I know now about computers versus what I knew then. And it's like, so the date was going to roll back to 000. And the computer was going to think that it was like the 1900s, before it existed. What?
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I guess.
Hey, man, I thought you'd be impressed by that.
I am a little bit. He's trying to impress me with his movie knowledge. He keeps trying. Anyway, I'm going to change this. I think this is an interesting question, but I'm going to change it a little bit. Do you think that and I'm talking about C under number 4 here. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's important to understand why, if everyone hears that "where are you" question in a different tone based on their relational history, do you think that it's important for people to understand why they hear that question in the tone that they hear it?
It's an interesting question. I don't think most people even think that deep on a basic level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that, and that's not to say the question isn't a good one, because it is, but
I don't know if it's connected to like Genesis 3. I don't know that if I've talked to people and like, when you picture God, when you like, what's he like? Is he have his back turned to you? Does he have his arms folded? Is he looking down on you in condescension? Is he frustrated?
Right.
Is he angry? Is he tender? Is he just like the grandfather that will just forgive and just let anything pass? Is he, give you candy whenever you ask for it?
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. I don't know how tied it is to like Genesis 3. Like, it's that specific question. I think it's more of a general.
Because I think we would say we would normally look at this text and think this is what's happening to Adam and Eve. But like we don't, and maybe sometimes should look at it as maybe it's what also happens to us when we're lost,
Yes.
But I think we look at it more when it comes to like the moral standards that are read out throughout the New Testament and the judgments that are read out through the New Testament. We can read those very easily and how those might be spoken to us. This I don't think we as contextually do, but I think it's important in a lot of ways, because I think most of the time God's statements are invitational. I think they often are. There are some scenarios where that's a little different, but for the most part, I think it is.
And always relational. So even if you could show me chapter and verse, and you could in the Old Testament, like when his presence leaves the temple in Ezekiel and the people mourn, it's always relational. It's always meant to bring people to repentance. It's he's always making a way back, even while he's doing like an exit strategy. He's making a way back. The book of Numbers, the whole like plan of the tabernacle was like in the midst of the people, despite all of their sin and rebellion, and by then. And so God's always so invitational in the context of relational, right?
Yeah, it's well said.
He wants a relationship with you.
Yeah. I was just thinking that if you understand, and that just because, understanding why you hear the tone, I only say the tone because that's kind of what the theme is at this point, or what we're talking about today. But like, I feel like if you understand why you think about God the way you do, it can help to change the way you think about God.
Sure. I think your question is good. I think we have to be careful that we don't feed that cultural monster of it's just about how it feels to you. And you're not saying this. I'm just saying, like, I want to safeguard. I think it's really important to hear God's voice, whether that means you're reading it, hearing it audibly, with technology today. It's important that you hear it and you try to understand it the way that it was written,
right?
Which is not super easy every passage. I don't mean that, but it becomes a very important exercise. It's like I want to hear him, what he actually says, and I want to try to wrestle with that, regardless of how that makes me feel or how I am tending to feel myself responding to it. This is really making me uncomfortable, or I might really, really like what I've been told that he said. I want to really try to figure out what he said. And I want to try to lean into it and try to obey it and try to live it, and no more, no less. Not over obey like Pharisaical, but not under obey like disobedient.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not where my sin nature leads, if that's what we're talking about.
Sure.
We're here in Genesis 3, right? My sin nature is like, no, I want to do it myself. I want to take what he offers me that's valuable, and I want to leave what's not. I want to come to him on my terms. I want him to do for me what makes my life better. I want him to protect me from stuff, and then I want him to leave me alone. And I want, now I'm using Genesis 3 Ben language of this is where my sin nature naturally leads, right? But
yeah. Oh, that. Just
Yeah.
because we're in the habit of coming up with other podcasts on this podcast. It'd be an interesting discussion sometime to talk about, like, representations of God's voice within media. So like if you have like an audiobook that's reading the Bible, is God's voice represented in a different voice than the standard reader? And like where is that line between a proper or appropriate representation of it and maybe just a little bit like, I don't want to say heretical, but that's kind of what I want to.
I mean, the standard is James Earl Jones, so anything beyond that is probably heretical.
People come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
I mean,
they'll come for reasons they can't even fathom. I can't do James Earl Jones.
I think
I can't
I
even
can try.
I think that one.
I just don't attempt that
My
one.
voice is
It's too
deeper.
good.
I could try a little.
I think he actually managed to impress me a tiny bit on that one.
Thank you, man. I was gonna tie something in because when you said, what was it that you just said? Because now I was caught up, but now you got me caught up in James Earl Jones. God's voice, the way think of God like God is the standard bearer, right? God is, in a sense, God is the first button. You know, it's theology that comes from him. It's Genesis 1, trying to understand what he said, the way he said it, how. So it's the who and the why versus the what and the how, especially in Genesis 1 and 2, right? So we're trying to get to know him on his terms. He's the ultimate person. He's the ultimate God. He is the ultimate standard bearer of relationships, of what it means to invite people into and develop and cultivate a healthy relationship. We take our cues from him. He's not us, but he became one of us, but he's not us. He's different than us, but he invites us into a relationship, but he is the standard bearer for how to conduct relationships. And notice that he doesn't go, oh, I feel bad. I'm coming down on you really hard. You can stay in the garden. I think I overreacted. Just think about, plug in any issue that we don't have time for because this is not a separate podcast. But just think about any LGBTQ or what God says about sexuality that really just cuts against maybe our natural desires, especially in our culture, and how God just because he's God, obviously, but he finds that way to toe that line to go, it's destructive and it's wrong and there are consequences and potentially even curses, and I am with you. In fact, if you're going to be banished from the garden, I am going to actually, in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to follow you. Mm-hmm. I could easily stay in there where it's better, or I could just eject from creation altogether and like start over, or I could go somewhere else. I'm God. I can do whatever I want. He in a way, he follows them relationally. He's the ultimate standard bearer of what it means to be in a healthy relationship, to have a gag reflex towards sin, but simultaneously just be so for the people that he's relating to, the sinful creatures that he's creating, that he's relating to. We can't perfectly mimic that, even though we're called to be witnesses of that and called to be cultivated into that image. It's just, I find that fascinating that the thing that makes me cringe or the thing that makes me go, I'm going to elevate my relationship with somebody over this particular issue. So I think maybe I'm leaning toward God says this about this issue, but I have this friend that I love that believes something different. And I find myself gravitating toward my friend because I don't want to lose a relationship. I empathize with that. I'm just saying, notice that God is the ultimate standard bearer of what it means to hold that tension of this is wrong. This will destroy you. And I'm going with you. In fact, I'm going to put myself on the hook of human suffering created by you largely. It's just that, I don't know, that is becoming a different podcast, but it just struck me as you were asking that question. To hear it the way he said it, to relate to him on his terms, to invite him in, to, all of that.
All right, we ready to go to the next question?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, does God paint with our brokenness? How does the symbol of falling leaves in our lives point to the ultimate hope in Christ? Y'all are the smart ones. I just press the buttons on the computer.
There are different interpretations that I'm having in my head of this question.
That's what I'm processing.
Falling leaves, meaning as one of the seasons and one season makes way for another, death is needed to produce life. We need to both acknowledge that that's true in creation and say that's not necessarily a result of the fall. But anytime you talk about if you start talking about animal death, that gets a little bit more interesting. You start talking about people death, we never needed to die. That was never God's original plan. So I don't know if it's that or if it's the fig tree that Dan was referring to because of the fig leaves.
I would guess it's probably that. Would
Okay.
you like me to read the point underneath the question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So while many see this as positive, many that stay away or abandon the faith do so after the pain of heartbreak and a refusal to accept God using that in his masterpiece: natural disaster, death, divorce, disease, abuse, personal failure, etc. Speak to the person with their head pushing. Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah. Wow, my brain just went all woggly.
This is one word. You're fine.
Speak to the person. No, what happened was I read the word wrong, and then my eyes went.
Oh,
weird.
okay. Okay. I'll say you're right there.
Speak to the person with their hand pushing the idea of God away because of their pain.
That paints it a little better. I think he's just talking of like there's the idea that God uses all things for good, good and bad. And so I think he's pointing to the people that maybe are experiencing some of these things, these death, divorce, disease, medical problems, family difficulties, all those things. So like, how do we reconcile that
Yep.
with the Christian faith,
Yes.
and even with Christians in general going through those same things? And then those things can lead to people either walking away from the faith or questioning the faith or all of those different things, right?
Yes.
And so how do you speak into somebody maybe going through that situation
Yep.
right now? I think maybe is what that's pointing to.
Yep. And I would say it's anything that we could talk about here is cold comfort if you don't have a personal God that's entered in to your suffering. We do, but without that, anything that we say here would be cold. I would think would sound and feel like cold comfort. So it's really important to like validate and to come alongside and all the stuff that we've talked about before. That being said, we're currently doing an engagement hour on apologetics, which you're co-leading. So I want to give you room to speak into this, but I would say it's interesting when there's something inside of us that uses God's terminology to label something as a reason to then turn away from God. And so while, again, I want to validate and empathize with the actual pain that's very real and is causing something, an upheaval in your heart and your mind, that happens to all of us, whether we admit it or not, whether we try to push it down or whether we just milk it or whatever we do, But I think we're using terminology from God and his story to then label it, to then use it against following him and trusting him. Mm-hmm. The fact that I can say that's not how he created it is me leaning into his story. I don't know if I really have an ability to actually say that's not how he intended things and that's not how he leaves things. He'll leave things. If I abandon the story, I think I also lose my ability to label those things. I have to actually normalize my pain. Ironically, I have to minimize it because I have to normalize natural selection and chaos. And we've been talking every week about this God of order. Out of disorder and chaos, he brings beauty and order and meaning and purpose. Without that, I'm left with, if I turn away from him, I'm left with orderlessness and chaos and meaninglessness. And then I have to somehow scrounge up meaning out of that space, and I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So,
it's a difficult spot to be in, and I think maybe I've said this before, but for people going through these things specifically, in the moments when you're going through them or when you're helping someone, they need less of you to be like a preacher and pastor at them, and they need you to be more of a friend and a co-laborer with Christ in the situation that's going on. And so just being there with them and trying to comfort them, and then obviously giving them truths of what God's word says, and then truths of what God has done in your own life, perhaps. But most of all, they just need a friend. You know what I mean? They need somebody that can be there. But at the same time, when I think of things like this, the first thing I think of is C.S. Lewis, somebody that grew up during during World War I, lost friends in World War I. They all died, and he was an atheist before, obviously, and many of us know the story of how he came to faith, of like, at the end of the day, he kept saying, how can I call all of these things that happened evil if there is no good, right? And so all of these things in some way point back to God. natural disasters, bad things happening, if we can even call them bad or call them evil, there's some standard out there that says it's good and that we know that to be God. And so in some ways, these things actually point to God in a lot of ways, and there's other ways we could go into. But, if you look throughout life, if you can reflect back, which I think is the best way to do it, post grief, post all of these things that we need to walk through together, we can see the faithfulness of God even through the most difficult times in our lives, even through the most difficult seasons of life, the worst disasters that have happened. We can see the way God works afterwards. It's just we have the storm right in front of our face, and so often we can't see that, and we're blinded to it sometimes. So it's not easy. Never say it is, but yes, there is hope, ultimate hope in Christ for making all things work for His good.
In this particular question, I want to shift away from it's a who and why is greater than the what and the how, and I want to shift to the who is greater than the why. The why does not get you many places. I will listen, and I will validate and empathize and be close. I will use anything as a way to get close and to listen, but the why isn't going to help. The who helps,
Who ultimately is the why, but it leads to that naturally when you talk about it, But I agree with you. If you
why did this happen?
If you lead with the why, then you're really actually not helping the person. I think in some ways, you know what I mean. You'll get there, but don't lead off with that. Because it's like who was I talking to? I was talking with our youth the other day, and we're talking about hope. And they were talking about some of the times where we've been the most hopeless. And I said, what are the things that never help when you're feeling hopeless? When somebody just goes, you just need to have hope. Well, thanks. That's so nice of you. Or just trust in Jesus. Well, yes, that's true. But that's not exactly helpful in the moment. Can you walk me through this? Can you just be with me? That type of thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just those easy statements of the whys that we try and just throw at people when they're walking through things.
Yeah.
Even when they're valid, trust in Jesus. Yes, we should trust in Jesus. How can we do that? Let's talk about that. But but initially, it's man, just walk through this together.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
All right, we ready to go on to the next one?
Sure.
All right. So, is it important to source our frustrations in light of the fall of man? Is this the right button to start with? Speak to the way we can follow God's lead by inviting relationship through pain, failure, and betrayal of life.
Oops. I have to read this again.
Okay, so A seems like a continuation of where we were, which is good.
Yeah.
Our frustrations in light of the fall is a little separate than is it the right button to start with. I'm not saying this was the heart of the questioner. I'm saying when I read this, I'm going, one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is start with the fall. That's an example of the wrong button. We start with we've been hitting this very hard as we can. We're starting with the who and the why. We're starting with Genesis 1 and 2 because it comes before 3. If you don't have a foundation for 1 and 2, you lose your ability to say this is wrong, or where is the standard, or is it just all randomness and all that kind of thing. So we can't start with the fall. I'm not saying that's exactly what the questioner is asking. Sourcing our frustrations in light of the fall, I do think is appropriate, and I do think is an important exercise. That as I lean into God and I really want to know what He has to say in His story, I am kind of forced to believe that the ills of this world is a result of us individually and collectively turning our backs on God and doing what we want to do. I do think that's very important. I do think that's a not the first button to start with, because the first one is Genesis 1 and 2, but as we get into the fall, absolutely that becomes important. God inviting relationship through pain, failure, betrayal, again, cold comfort if God didn't enter that space, but because He did, I in the New Testament is littered with passages about what suffering produces and all the good things that can come out of pain. Josh is right. That doesn't mean that you sit down with somebody and you jump steps and you go, yeah, don't worry about that. It's going to be good. It's all going to work out. We can actually ironically quote Bible verses and draw and drive people away from the faith. All things work together for good, man. Just trust God, man. I don't know.
You just don't have enough faith.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's more of an indictment on, on you're doing something wrong. And so you're almost unintentionally answering the person's question is the ills that are in your life or because of the choices that you made and it's just so much, it's so complex and, we don't want to reduce that down. So, yes, through God is, back to Josh's term, it is invitational. And it does often happen through your pain and your failure. I mean, listen to testimony after testimony after testimony of how people came to a realization that they needed God. It almost is never, this worked out. My parents weren't perfect, but they were really good. And then I went to high school, and that was really good. And then I went to college, and that was really good. And then I met somebody really good. We had kids, healthy and really good. My body works the way it's supposed to. I'm healthy, clean bill of health every time I have a physical, really good. And then I just knew I needed Jesus because I knew somehow, even though I didn't feel it at all, that I'm not saying that can't happen. You never hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why is that?
I love the statement that I heard once by a preacher, and it said, and there was some nuance to it, but he said, the capacity for God to use you is in many ways correlated to the amount of pain you're willing to endure. And so I think that points to a lot of that too. It's like, man, if we can understand that no matter what, we're going to endure pain in this world because of Genesis 3. We see that's happened, and so that has infiltrated all areas of society and the world. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be a part of our everyday life sometimes, and it's not always easy. We need the church, we need the community, we need the groups to all be a part of it and to walk through it together. But if we can keep our eyes on Christ and we can trust that He is going to use them for the good, then it's a net positive.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like broken creation is screaming back at me, like, this doesn't work. You can't make me work. You can't sustain it. You can't create and sustain meaning apart from God. You can have success here, and here, but you can't sustain it. You can't sustain your health forever, and you can't sustain your job forever, and you can't sustain good relationships all the time forever. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work. Something is fundamentally broken, and I think it's meant, especially as we age, right, and we start to lose things, certain abilities and capacities. We get wiser, so there's always a silver lining, but there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of frustration, and it's just, we know where we're headed, and it's just I think it's meant to have a surrender. Honestly, I really do.
Yeah,
I think it's exactly what we need. It's not what we want. It's Batman. It's not the hero we want. It's the hero we need.
You got your one for this episode.
I don't even know if I got that right.
No, it's
the one we deserve. No.
Yeah. He's not the hero
we need.
No, it's he's not the hero we deserve, but he's the hero we need.
Oh. So I got it almost opposite. Hey, I tried.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Is there a disparity in holding a macro evolutionary view and believing Genesis 3? Did death exist prior to the fall?
Oh boy.
And Genesis 3 is symbolic? Was death introduced as a frustration to creation from the disorder of sin, or is this a poetic way to convey the heart spirit of the issue? And go.
These are all Chris's questions?
Yes.
Good job, Chris.
Man,
Good questions.
these are good. My first response is, interestingly, that if you start with Genesis 3, this is where the first button's so important. If you start with that, it does seem to suggest or sync up better to a more macro evolutionary view.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I was reading.
No, I think if you start with Genesis 3, if Genesis 1 and 2 are not part of the story, if you are dropped in on the scene, and first of all, you would lose your ability, I think, to say it might feel bad, but like, this is happening, creation isn't responding to me. How could you say creation isn't responding to me? How could you say, like, me and my wife were at odds?
Sure.
Unless you at one time had it where you and your wife weren't at odds. I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
So that gets really weird. But I do think it actually syncs up a little bit more with a macroevolutionary view, because things are just random chance. They're just disordered. They're just there's beauty, but there's, I don't know how I can even call it that, but there's beauty in brokenness. This is just normal. This is what maybe an evolutionary biologist would tell me if they were talking. This is there's so many, like you could tell me about the teleological argument. You could tell me about fine tuning. You could, and I would have to give some ground in that. Like, wow, there are a lot of things that give me pause, but there are so many things that are, that, as you would say, like broken and disordered and chaotic and random and ridiculous. There's no way that God could be the author of that, you know?
Yeah.
And so it almost, like in a superficial way, it almost syncs up with macro evolution. It doesn't, but I'm just trying to play off of the question.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer the first question, really. I mean, I think probably just because of my tendency anyways when it comes to what you just stated with some of the apologetic stuff, I wouldn't necessarily fall into that category. Is there a disparity? I guess I don't know. Maybe. I guess I need to think about that question more. I was given it, 30 minutes ago. Now, did death exist prior to the fall? I mean, okay, so let's just work with what we have right in front of us.
Yeah.
And forgive me for being so simple, but we didn't hear anything about death before, except for if you did this thing that they ended up doing, you would die. Then we get them doing that thing, which is eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then we get verse 19 that says, you will return to the ground, for out of which you were taken. For you were dust, and to dust you will return. And so it seems, in a very simple sense, based on just what the words say, that yes, it was introduced after the fall. That maybe the intention was not always to be death, that maybe there was going to be continued life on. Now, it doesn't say that was the initial point of creation, right? Now, to be fair, I don't think when we create things, or let's even say like when we have a child, we're never thinking of death in the first place, right? Like, so we don't have a child and then say, and they will die someday. Like, that's not what we do, right? When a new baby is born, we are just celebrating the life and the creation that has happened. And so it's not natural to come into conversation about the death part of it. But again, you would think with everything else that was spoken into creation and the detail that was given and all that, that maybe that would be a part of it. So I would say, if you want my simple answer, I would definitely lean towards death was introduced after the fall. Can I tell you with 100% certainty that's the way it was? No.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're doing what we're trying to do as in a series, and you're trying to take what's given to us. There is no hint of death before the fall.
There's also kind of that possibility that death is not as we understand it today.
Possibly. I guess expand on that.
I mean, you can make the same argument with everything. Like, a concept is talked about from so long ago that it is then therefore questioned. Is it like what we understand it today? So, like, is death like dying physically, or is death in that capacity? I don't even know what it would be, because it's kind of unfathomable.
I mean, it seems that the death uses correlate to what we know them to be today throughout the Old Testament.
Clearly.
Like,
I would say what I mean is after the fall, yes, death is what we understand it today.
Oh, I see.
But like, I mean, like before the fall, is
okay.
there something different that happens?
Yeah, that's possibly. I guess we just don't have anything in Scripture that gives us that inclination.
It's also a very interesting thing to think about, because like you guys were saying, death is somewhat required for new life. So the thing that is the consequence of us breaking the relationship with God is now then required for new life.
Yeah, there's
That's a
different.
very interesting cycle.
You can be a Christian, so we'll go the places that we're trying not to go, except with the podcast where we have more room, right?
And we're given the questions by other people, so hey,
you went for it that one week. You were like, let's go for it. What do you think about the age of the earth?
Yes.
You can be a Christian. You can be a Christian and believe in animal death, before the fall. You can believe in hundreds of thousands or millions of years of animal life and death before people came on the scene. There's such a continuum of different beliefs out there. William Lane Craig will go as far as to say, if you don't believe in an old earth and you don't believe in at least animal death before what we believe is the fall of man, then you can't even have an ecosystem, and it's like ridiculous. He's kind of counter to Ken Ham, saying you're ridiculous if you don't believe in, you're barely a Christian if you don't believe in a literal 24-hour days, So you can be a Christian and believe any of those things. None of those are essential to the Christian faith. I don't know. I don't know if there was death beforehand. We're just not. There's so much we're not told, and it was so definitively different too. You have to. I think even though it's not stated exactly this way, you have to look at Genesis 1 and 2 and go, it's so definitively different. You get the fall. You get actually what's more normal to us. But it's so different here, right?
Yeah.
Qualitatively, it has to be. So I don't know what that means. But.
Yeah, and I think I might go back on my answer a little bit and then say and now say no, that I have thought about this for a minute. And I only say that because the idea of macroevolution in and of itself is like the idea of, first of all, starting off as something from nothing, but then also going into like these continual like changes and reformings and all of those different things in this evolution so that by definition seems to indicate the death of something that has been into something new that is coming. And so if that's what led up to Adam being created at that point, then there would have been death before that to get to where Adam is, to where God shows up in the story of evolution. So I would say then yes, because if we're going to say that to the best of our knowledge there was not death before then that would be at odds with a macroevolution perspective. And so I guess that's where I land.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting though. If you take out Genesis 1 and 2, I mean, you're left with a different faith.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
Anybody can find
and
Jesus,
you're jumping into the story and going, who are these people? Where'd they come from?
Yep. Yep.
So
that's the button though. That's so important to have disparity between macroevolution and the story of the Bible.
Yep. Yeah. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the introduction out of frustration to creation. Because it says, was death introduced as a frustration to creation from the disorder of sin, or is it a poetic way to convey the heart or spirit of the issue?
Well, it's definitely more than poetic.
Yeah,
it's definitely literal.
I would say maybe both.
Yep.
In some ways.
I mean, things can be more than one thing.
Right. Both things can be true at once.
Things that are metaphorical typically have their roots in something real.
Yep.
So it's.
I mean, he's saying things like, "I will put," like I'm doing this. I surely will, and like he's causing things to go in because of. He's obviously just, and so a sin has been done, and so there has to be justice on the other end. So the consequence, like all of those types of things. Was there frustration? The word frustration is an interesting word.
I was going to say, would you call that a frustration?
I mean,
I think
you
so.
could. Yeah,
I think so. When something doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, by the sweat of your brow and pain in childbearing. I mean, we had couple of glimpses of. It really seems like women were created to have children without pain, and we were meant to cultivate the earth without some sort of sweat of our brow kind of frustration, not yielding what it's supposed to yield all the time.
Doesn't it seem like death itself is on a different level than that, though?
That's a good question. So we talk about literal, figurative. It's definitely at least literal, right? We're saying death is a real thing, right? Obviously, but like to me, death is a curse. God can curse whatever he wants on the basis of whatever he wants.
Yep.
It's also a natural consequence.
Yeah.
If Jesus, when I get to the gospel, I like to do if Jesus is the light of the world, to turn from him is darkness. If Jesus is the bread of life, to turn from him is to starve. If he's the living water, to turn from him is to die of thirst. Like it's a natural consequence. It just so happens that whether we're talking about Adam and Eve, Adam lived 930 years.
I was literally just gonna bring that point up.
If you take it literally, which I do, but that's insane. So I don't know. Like, would he have been like, in his 740th birthday? Would he have been like,
You can see
God,
that. You can
the serpent. The serpent. He was onto something. Like I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a couple wrinkles. I don't even know how do you call them? Are to call them wrinkles? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would have been like.
You can see the gradual regression in the amount of years people live too as you walk through the
Yes.
Old Testament. And so
Yep.
like you get to that point then after the flood, even how it's like even down more. We're down to like 120 years and like all this. And so like
and my point was just because there's not an immediacy, right? Like there's that like you will die. Like there's a trajectory. I could die tomorrow, obviously, but I could also like do something really harmful to myself, toxic to myself and my life, and not die for a long time. That doesn't mean that what I'm doing is good, and it doesn't mean that even if I get lucky and live a little longer, that I'm not on a really dangerous trajectory that's going to lead to death. And so it is both a literal thing, but it also is a representation of like the ultimate natural consequence and curse. Everything lesser than that is lesser than that. You're right. Death is more than any other consequence, I think.
yeah, and also we're getting a bird's eye view of what happens because of the sin that they committed. We don't often see the immediate repercussions of our sin, right?
No,
we don't.
that's the point.
And so like it happens in our lives and then later down the road there could be consequence for it, or it's just going to be when we stand in front of God and have to give account for it. But like in this case, we get the X-ray vision of what they did and what their consequences. So it's different than what we're normally relating to because, I mean, I could sin tomorrow and nothing could happen. But to them, they sinned and then we see what happens right there.
That's right.
Right. And so there's just a huge difference of like how it's perceived and what we see. And
But as you relate that to your life, you would say what? You have a bird's eye view on their life.
Yeah.
But as you connect it to yours, you would say, what about your sin?
That-
Even though you can get away with it.
Oh, that it still leads to the same thing. That exactly what you just said when you're talking about if Christ is living water, then we're going to thirst to death, and if he's the bread of life, then we're going to start like it's just continually spreading that gap between you and God in that relationship, right? Not that he's not close to you, but it's cutting off the relationship. That's what sin does, is it blocks and gets in the way of us in Christ.
I also think think about God being gracious in a weird way, but God being gracious that I can do destructive, horrible things and not die right away. I think that's God's grace.
Yeah.
Here's another way. Tell me what you think about this, because I haven't really like taught on this. But like, if it's a curse and a consequence, if sin is both a curse and a consequence, isn't it really gracious for God to curse us along with the natural consequences? Because the curses are signaling something. The flaming sword, right? You can't go back to the garden. If there was no flaming sword, if they were allowed to stay in the garden, I'm not God. He could get it done a number of different ways. But what I'm thinking is, like, if it was too normal and there weren't curses, they might have been able to think, it's fine. And it's not fine.
Yep.
Because the natural consequences are devastating. And so I don't want this, but I almost need, my sinful self almost needs God's curses to align with the consequences enough to where I go, that's, oh my gosh, that's not okay. Wow. Because it's not enough sometimes for me to actually just experience natural consequences, because I do get away with it. Mom, I know you're listening. I did lie to my parents. I was pretty good at it.
Bring him home. Time out.
It's pretty good at it.
Bring him home.
I don't know that I
way.
ever got caught in that grandiose way where I was like punished for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever happened.
Yep. And minus this thing, you wouldn't know that it was a bad thing to do. I mean, I guess in some ways you would, because God's moral law, I think, is written on our hearts. But in the same sense, we see the consequence by reading this and understanding this.
This is incredibly invaluable. It's the very words of God. It's what you just said. I do agree with you that there is a, but again, how do we know that there's a moral law written on our hearts and actually come to grips with that unless it's revealed to us, right? And so it's a weird kind of balance of like, there are pastors, and I think this is another podcast. They're well-meaning.
Are you writing these down?
No,
maybe well-meaning.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume their motives are good.
Yep.
And they'll say things like, the first Christianity didn't grow because of the Bible. It grew because of the belief in the resurrection. Well, okay, that's great for them. The only reason that I know about the resurrection, the Bible. This is way undervalued.
100%.
This is not like this is
100%.
yes, maybe the first Christians stayed Christians and they took incredible risks because Jesus appeared to them. Things were written down though pretty quickly.
Yep.
And like the size of people that did that is very small compared to the millions and hundreds of millions and potentially billions of people that have come to Christ through dreams, but through this. You know, and so again, I'm a hobby horse now, but it's
good.
another podcast. It's good though.
The only thing I was going to say is that it's interesting you talk about death as the ultimate consequence, but then also that death is in death our context as believers are reunited with God through death.
Even because of the Christian story, because of the power of the gospel, even in death. Even in death, this is Tim Keller, shocker. Even death, he turns into a resurrection. He does by his power. He's the first fruits. He went first, 1 Corinthians 15, so that I know if I'm in Christ, I will be raised because of what he did, his sacrifice. He was raised to life. I'll be raised to life. I can know it. Even in death, he turns death into resurrection. This is the power. And oh, by the way, this is all in here. You know, this is shameless plug for the Bible. It's the basic instructions before leaving Earth. Yes, I got it.
Wow, well
See,
done.
now you impressed him.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard that before.
From my mouth.
That's impressive.
It is the first time you've heard that from my mouth.
Usually it's like basic. What did you say?
Remember the first time it blew my mind?
It did.
What?
Oh.
What's this planet you're from?
I think it's just that whole dad thing. You get like extra powers or something.
I don't know what it is.
Why is it important to you personally that God stepped into the story, that he invited you to walk with him? Is it important to discuss this as a central difference between Christianity and other worldviews?
Okay. So this is why it's important to me a little bit for reasons I can't even explain to you other than I'm hardwired for it. I am made in the image of my Creator, who is Trinitarian. So our God is a living, breathing relationship of self-giving love. I'm made in that image. Stories, I connect to stories. All of us connect to good stories, whether it's through the movies or books or personal testimonies or whatever, right? We all, because we're hardwired that way. So like it could be if I was made differently and God stepped into the story, I might go, I don't know. But because God entered into the very story that he authored, the author of the everything, of obviously the Bible, but of the whole universe, entered into the very story that he was writing. That is incredibly, deeply impactful and meaningful. And yes, without disparaging any other religions or any people that believe anything else, Christianity is way set apart that way. Our God has wounds. Our God subjected himself to the ills of this world, and he paid for it with his life. And other religions go, that's insane. And I go, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's hard to fathom that depth of love.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hardwired. I'm recognizing that I'm hardwired to, yes, it's revealed in Scripture, and so it attaches to something in me. It resonates, but I'm hardwired to be drawn into a relational God because I'm a relational being, because I'm made in the image of a relational God. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to do circular reasoning. I just thought that was my first response.
Yeah, when I think of this question, the analogy that comes to mind is like your children are put into a scenario and it's just chaos and things are going wrong, and you created this whole scenario. You know everything about it. You're intricately intertwined into it, all of the different things, and you put your children into it and they just don't know what's going on, and things are going bad and people are getting mad at each other and chaos is building. And other religions seem to just like take what I would represent as God and just start like hammering things and like stop and like shame and like go over here and like just throwing out demands. And then we see God of the Bible steps down into that and says, hey, look, let's do it this way. Hey, come to me if you're weary. Hey, let me help you show how this was intended to work. Hey, let me help you. Like, there's this stepping in and coming alongside and inviting into relationship to show you how it was intended to be from the very beginning, to where all the other religions just seem to be like, "Gah, gah, 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 gah." You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? And so
Yes.
there's that visual that comes in. And yes, it's the only religion where this God actually sacrifices himself for you. And most every other religion, it's you sacrificing something for them.
That's right.
And that's very significant.
That's it. Tim Keller reference, religion, I obey, therefore I'm accepted. The gospel, I'm accepted, therefore I obey. Other religions, I am a prophet come to help you find the way or a way to God. Christianity, Jesus, I am God, come to find you. There are superficial similarities, don't get me wrong. There is value in other in parts of different religious beliefs. There are truths in parts of religious beliefs. But if you don't get it right at the core, if you don't get it right at the first button, I think you know by now where that leads. You know, and that's if it leads you away from a Christian worldview, it will naturally lead you, whether you believe Jesus was a lunatic or he was something a lot more than a man, or whatever it is that you believe, it will lead you to religion. It will lead you to performative acts for the sake of trying to be good enough for God. And that's away from Christianity.
Yeah. Yep. Your Tim Keller quote made me think. I'm on this like kick of making shirts. I don't know why, but I just enjoyed designing shirts. And I made one, and it said, "No works. That's awkward. James."
That's awesome. You come up with the idea and you make the shirts?
Yeah. So I just I have a.
Do you have shirts at home?
I haven't ordered them yet. I literally just made them like 2 days ago, so I'm finalizing it before
That's
I put it out there.
creative.
But yeah, it's no works. That's awkward, James. So we'll see if that one's a hit.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
I should make a shirt with that too. Except I think somebody else already coined that, so it's probably copyright.
All right. Ready for the last question?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're done talking about shirts. Go ahead.
Okay. What hope does Judgment, Day of the Lord, offer? Are we the crazy people living amongst the tombs, breaking change, and possessed by demons without Christ? If so, how should we hear the story in the context of the hope of the future offered by Genesis 3:15?
I'm going to reread it because I was singing. It's like
Yes. Is 15 the... Oh, yeah, enmity. Yep, crush your head, strike your heel. Dan did a good job with that on Sunday. I'm buying time now. Okay. So first question, what hope does Judgment Day offer? No more sin. No more sin, no more brokenness, no more pain, no more suffering, no more disease, no more loneliness, no more death. Tim Keller reference, shocker. God's quest in entering his own story that he wrote is to end sin without ending you and me. That's a little maybe oversimplified to some ears, where it's like, yeah, you got to tell me more about that, of course. But it's just, it's... I stand by that though. Judgment Day is an end of sin. You don't want to be judged apart from Jesus, because then you will be judged on the merits. And then, ironically, a false religion will actually become true about you. You actually will be judged and evaluated apart from Jesus' work on your behalf. And if you don't have his $5 billion to pay for your $5 billion debt that you could never dream of paying in 100 lifetimes, you will have to, the debt will be on you to render. And there is, because you can't pay it, then the consequences will immediately fall on you. And you don't want to, our whole witness, our reason for witnessing is, yes, the love of Christ compels me, but practically I don't want anybody to have to face judgment. The closer I get to Jesus, that even includes my worst enemy. It doesn't at first, maybe. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's an easy thing. It's actually impossible to really live that out apart from Christ and apart from the Holy Spirit. But I think the closer you get to in tune with the Holy Spirit and to Christ, it becomes my worst enemy, the person that's treated me the worst, that hasn't even repented yet. I want to be a witness to them because I don't want them to experience the eternal effects of having to be judged apart from the blood of Christ. And that's judgment is we look forward to it and we also grieve it. Those of us that are Christians, there should be a tension of, if we're being honest, come Lord Jesus right now because I can't take anymore. And thank you for being patient and waiting because you were patient with me and it gives people more time to repent.
Yeah. Yep. I think, are they just crazy people? Yes.
I was hoping you'd answer that
Yep.
one.
I'll say yes. But how should we hear the story? Well,
Wait, are you crazy people living in the tombs, breaking chains and possessed by demons without Christ?
am I?
Are
No,
we? It
because
says,
I
are
have
we?
Christ.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's talking about mankind.
Okay.
That's how I took it anyways.
So people without Christ.
People
yes.
without Christ are just crazy people running
Yeah.
around. I mean, they're not all crazy. But in this context, if you want to call them crazy, Chris, that's up to you. Chris, not me. Anyways, so to answer your question, yes. And then how should we hear the story? I would say don't stop at verse 15.
Ooh, I like that.
Listen to the whole story. Because as we continue to go through Genesis up to chapter 11, but then as you continue to listen through Moses and Abraham and all of the prophets, all the way to the end of the book that we have of the Old Testament, you just hear the calling of the one who's to come that is going to crush the head of the snake, right? And then we get that story brought back starting in the New Testament, and we see it come to fruition with Jesus on the cross, the ultimate crushing of the head of the serpent. He doesn't have his deceptive power against us anymore because of what he's done on the cross. And so look to the whole picture. Look at what the Old Testament is just pointing to and groaning for and hoping for. It's pointing all to Jesus. So read the whole story.
That's so good. One of my friends a long time ago said, have you read the Old Testament? Knowing that I did.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hopeless. And I go, I know. I know. That's kind of the point. It's kind of the point.
All right. Is that everything we have to say?
Yes.
All right.
So much more to say, so little
Well,
time.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
out of ammo. I have not.
So that's all we have for our thoughts for the sermon. Where are you?
Where are you? Oh,
Where? There's the trigger.
I was going to say that. Impress you.
I told you only get one a podcast.
I know, obviously.
I'm still lost. So, okay.
You
Batman.
never seen The Dark Knight?
Yes, there's
Where's the trigger?
Oh, yes. Okay.
With Bane.
Yep.
No.
Because it's about to.
Wait.
Where are you,
No,
Batman?
I think that's The Dark Knight, not The Dark Knight Rises.
It's Rises.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the woman has it. She stabs him.
That's right.
She has it.
That's right.
But then she
And
pushes
he's
it. But
punching
then
it, and you can
they
hear
figured out a way
you
to.
can hear his mask go. "Tee."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Have you ever watched the Bane Cat videos?
Yeah.
And they're so good.
Like cats are speaking.
Where is my food, young man?
I always
You peasants must give me my food.
I always laugh
was
at the
molded in darkness.
Give it to me now.
I always laugh at the one
It's
where
good I
they
have
put
night vision. I was molded in darkness.
the 3D printed Batman cowl on the cats, and they go.
Oh, the mask.
Real. Anyway, let's get on out of here. I have a Christmas thing to write.
Mom,
So-
thanks for staying to the end. Love you.
Those are our thoughts on Dan's message. Stuff like that.
Bane cat.
If you,
Those are our thoughts.
if
Just listen to
you,
the last few minutes.
if you want to submit questions, you can use this Connect card again. If you submit questions through this method, it's completely anonymous. We'll never use your name. If you would like to get on the team that now writes these discussion questions for this podcast, you can probably talk to me or one of them, I guess, too. They'll just throw you at me. So, yeah. And other than that, Dan, if you're still watching, so long, and thanks for all the fish.